Lakes? Good. And how many Trans-Superior participants? Oh wow, 2. Great, great, awesome. So if I tell a lie, those 3 will correct me. Okay. My perspective here is mainly going to be from like a race organizer and gathering stories and things like that. I've done the Trans-Superior myself, I think about 5 times. Twice on a J35, I used to race on Papa Gaucho when it belonged to Dave DeLeo. And I was on the foredeck, and back when I could like kneel, and I could work really quickly with my hands and do things like that, and like go up the mast. I loved working on the J35, loved being foredeck on that. And then a couple times on trimarans. I was a boat captain for Jack Cully. Anybody know Jack or know of him? He owned, Barker's Island Marina, and he wanted to get trimarans on Lake Superior. It was a fool's errand. Nobody wants a trimaran on Lake Superior, but I was his boat captain for a couple of years, taking trimarans around the Great Lakes and trying to get people interested in trimarans and multi-hulls. They are a great boat. They're super fun, but everybody's worried about them pitch bowling and whatever else. But I love them. So next slide. And I thought we could play a little bit of this. I found this. This was sent my way as one of the race organizers, and I just love it. And as you're watching this is from 1981. We'll watch like maybe 3 or 4 minutes of it. As you watch it and you start kind of looking at their equipment and stuff like that, and kind of say, "What? That's a fall weather gear." I wonder what somebody 30 years, 40 years from now will think of us. Let's see it.
Good evening and welcome to PM Magazine. I'm Debbie Nerby, and tonight I'm at the Lakehead Boat Base and getting a look at True North, a 37-foot racing sloop. Tonight we'll be joining True North and her 11 crew members on one of the world's most grueling sailboat races, the Trans-Superior. But before we set sail, here's Mike to tell you about the rest of tonight's show. From the farthest end of Lake Superior to the Duluth Harbor is 400 miles. Now try to imagine 43 sailboats spending 3 to 5 days, day and night, trying to be the fastest boat to cover that distance. Tonight we'll be on board True North to find out what it's like to sail the big brother of all freshwater sailboat races, the Trans-Superior. When most of us think of sailing, we imagine tranquil, sun-filled days skipping from port to port.
What's that called? They call it blooper?
Try to picture 3 to 5 days of non-stop sailing over 400 miles of the most unpredictable waters anywhere. It's the ultimate challenge of sailing skill and human stamina. It's the world's longest freshwater sailboat race, the Trans-Superior. How do you prepare to race across the largest lake in the world, Lake Superior?
We've been racing the boat since about the middle of May, and we've tested the boat under all conditions.
I think we'll call that good. I'll put a link to that on the Trans-Superior website, and you can watch it in entirety if you wish. So the course, she said 400 miles. We say the official race is 326 nautical miles, or 375 statute miles, or basically racing from Wayzata to Chicago. Think about that. I mean, driving a boat all that way. It sometimes seems small when you just look at the lake and you think, oh, that's not that bad, keep it off, we'll get right there. But I always like to think about that distance and just what that means. The first Trans-Superior was held in 1969. It was a challenge between 2 old friends from White Pine, Michigan, Dr. John Pierpoint and Jack Schulberg. It was a friendly challenge turned into a race involving 22 yachts.
Pierpont.
Pierpont. Pierpont, oh, thank you. Yeah, very good. All over the Great Lakes. The race was run by Tigress, a New York 36, sailed by George Lyons of Rochester, Michigan, with a elapsed time of 84 hours and 2 minutes. So 22 boats in the first race. I think the highest we've ever had is 41. And then the year after COVID, 2021, we had a big uptick there too. We had close to 30, I think 41 registered, we had 35 that completed. But most years it's in that 25 to 30 range for boats of the, yeah. In contrast, like the Chicago Mac or the Bayview Mac, they attract like, what, 300 boats or something like that. But it's a harder sell. It's a harder sell to get people to come up to Lake Superior. A lot of people are really scared of this lake. My dad would all the time say, "What are you doing out on that lake? That's a dangerous lake. That's a terrible lake." The way I like to think about this lake is it's a little bit like a freeway, right? If you're in a car on the freeway, you're safe. But if you choose to step out of the car and play on the freeway, it's not safe, right? So, yeah, so that's what I would tell my dad. So my goal is to stay on top of the water, on the boat, right? And then I feel pretty good, right? But if we fall into the water, you know the 1-10-1, right? Lake Superior is normally about 40 degrees. And the 1-10-1 rule is, one, if you fall in, you've got 1 minute to kind of get your breathing under control. You're going to have a gasp reflex, you might like inhale water. So you've got 1 minute to kind of get that under control. 10, you've got 10 minutes where you've got control of your body, where you can do things like, grab onto things and tie a knot and stuff like that. And then the next one is really about 1 hour to survive, right? Before hypothermia takes you under, right? So 1-10-1. So it's not a lake to mess around with, or is any lake, right? This lake right here, same thing. 1-10-1 out there as well right now. But yeah, so I have a lot of respect for this lake. In 1983, we also sail the race every 2 years, which is great. It keeps co-chairs or chairs of the race kind of like good. You know how it is when you're running a big event. When you're done, you're like, oh my God, I'm never doing that again. And then somehow you do it again. And this one, when it's 2 years off, you go, oh, it won't have to be that big a deal. And then that year comes, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I just gave up my whole summer for this? But that's how it is. In 1983, they ran it from Duluth to Sault Ste. Marie. Usually it's the other way, of course. And it's kind of a cool idea because then the folks from down lake, from the other lakes, could deliver to Duluth, and then they don't have as far to go to get home, right? They can get to Chicago and wherever else they need to go. But it's kind of a bummer for the finish because finishing in Duluth is sort of like if you do the Berkey and you finish in downtown Hayward, right? It's iconic, right? To be able to ski down that main street of Hayward, have all the people there. And so when you finished at the other end at the Whitefish Point, there was nobody there. There were some people that were there for the finish. They were picking blueberries and hanging out. And that was it, right? And I don't even think the boat could hear the horn when they crossed the line. Right? So, yeah, they only did it 1 year and decided that that was not the way to do it. Yeah. Oh, that artwork is by Amber Burns, and I thought it was just phenomenal. I love pictures of Lake Superior, artwork of Lake Superior. If you ever come across anything, send it my way. That'd be great. So you start in Sault Ste. Marie. We used to start mainly on the Canadian side and kind of go through there, and then had to do customs in Duluth. It was a bit of a hassle. But now we have been embraced by the Michigan city of Sault Ste. Marie. And there's a marina there called George Kemp Marina. And all the boats typically stay there. There's about 30, 38 boats that are hanging out there. We're trying to do more to make it more festive. We had a guy playing the guitar at the beginning of the event there. Had a little captain's meeting on board one of the Sioux lock boats. Do you know the Sioux lock boats? You've been through them? Yeah, it's kind of our thing is to have the captain's meeting on that boat. And then in the morning of the race, we have to lock through, right? The St. Mary's River is lower than Lake Superior, so we have to go in the lock. The lock gets full of water, and out we go out the other side. I just love this picture for thinking of the complication. If you ever thought sailing was simple? Look at this picture. Wow. And you just know, like, oh my God, it's not simple at all. What the heck do you do? Just crazy. It's pretty common when you're in the lock, and I'm surprised to not see anybody up on the bosun's chair, up on the mast, but that's pretty common to go up there and do that. I think this is a really good picture here to kind of look at the different boats that participate. You've got this big beamy thing. You've got a little Olsen 30, Polar Bear here, who's going to have a great race. Sapphire, what's that, about a 40-footer. And then 6, I used to race on this boat. It's a Mum 30 or Par 30. That is not the boat to do Lake Superior on. That's crazy. But they were a young crew, 6 young guys, and they didn't mind that there was no place to sleep, that there was no place to take a poop. There was, yeah, it's like no accommodations at all. So don't do it on a Par 30. That was crazy. Although we had a single-handed guy do it on a Par 30 and won in the single-handed division, but he had it set up with a reefing sail and everything. He did it right. Yep. So from here, once you lock through, you still have about 10 miles to go before you get to the start. And we start at the Gross Cap Light, and you can just see it over here. And then the Chippewa County Sheriff is kind enough to serve as our committee boat. And so I, or John Honig, the race PRO, will go out with the Chippewa County Sheriff and do our start there. We used to start the big boats first, and then the little boats. And then we had feedback with the little boats saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could actually see those big guys and see them at least for a little bit? So now we start the little guys, the solo sailors, we start them first, and then we start double-handed, cruising, and then the perf A and B, and then we save the ORC, the big 70, 50 footers for the very end, and then the big guys can blast through the fleet and on their way to the loop. Yeah, it's a sweet way to do it. Start this year, we always kind of make these plans, like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to start? There's big wind, and it just seems like we never really get big wind at the start. It seems like it's always, pretty light. Just a pretty typical start. So I just put in this picture here. You can see that there's incoming weather. You can see there's another boat that's in that weather. We have a really strong relationship with the National Weather Service out of Marquette. National Weather Service is great, by the way. I work with them a lot on a lot of different projects. And they support us by doing a daily weather briefing that we then send out to the boats that they can get access to, the captains, and helps us on shore as well. And then if there's a storm cell that's moving through, then we can send a special alert. And that worked. I just got some feedback from one of our skippers. They weren't paying real close attention. They were having some problems on the boat. Their cell phone dinged with an alert. They looked up and went, oh my God. And they saw something like this headed their way, and they were able to reef and put up a smaller jib. And he said it definitely saved them from a knockdown or something worse. So, but now a lot of the skippers too have they have weather radar and pay really close attention. But we have lots of layers of safety. I think in the past the Coast Guard would actually follow the fleet in a boat, but things have changed. We don't have that capability. They don't have that capability now, but they do monitor it. They follow our tracking website, and they pay really close attention to the fleet. Yeah, this is a fairly typical view. Usually the water, this is what, 10, 15 knots of breeze, sails perfectly trimmed. Yeah, beautiful. YB tracking, that's who we use for tracking. I'll talk more about it when we get there, but it used to be called yellow brick tracking until the Wizard of Oz folks got a hold of them and said, oh, can't call it that anymore. So it's turned to YB tracking. This is kind of the ultimate Trans-Superior boat. This is like on the other end of the spectrum from 6 to Par 30. This is a big, I don't know what it was, a 53-footer cruising boat, but these guys were loving life. This is the way to do it. I think it was a crew of like 4 or 5. They've got what they have, one of those things on the back, a grill on the back. And, yeah. Just sweet. Probably microwave down below. Who else? What else? Yeah. This is a fairly typical view for those who've done the Trans-Superior. This, you're used to tight racing out here, crossing and things like that. This is really kind of what you might experience, seeing some competitors nearby, but usually not very close, right? But close enough where you feel like, yeah, I'm racing, I'm a part of this thing. The competitors do have access to the YV tracking, so they can kind of know where folks are at. And we're going to start to require AIS. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. And all the big boats have it where they go out and they say, here's where I'm at, here's where I'm at. And we're going to add that as a requirement for 2025 to have AIS on there as well. And that they transmit on AIS and receive. Yeah. Some people will, there's some, when we raced offshore early on, there'd be some boats at night that would turn off their lights, so you wouldn't see them and they could sneak or do whatever. But we really want them to be visible and in any way possible. How am I doing? Are you getting the right information? Good.
Yeah.
You're all focusing, everybody's well behaved. It's not all high-speed storms coming in on Lake Superior, especially in August. There's often times where you go into a parking lot, you get parking lots out here. Yeah, and the parking lots there can last for a long time. I can remember one time being off of the Keweenaw Peninsula in the middle of the night and being able to memorize the light pattern from the Copper Harbor light, because that's all we saw, and we were right there forever. Yeah. And what do? You just wait. There's nothing else you can do. Unless you're in the cruising class, then you can fire up the motor. So last year we had a guy in the cruising class. You get a penalty when you use your motor. And the guy who came in first on the cruising class basically motored the whole lake. I had to give him a time penalty of 5 days, 19 hours, and 15 minutes. Do you know how hard that is to do on yacht scoring? It's difficult. It's set up to give him like an hour time penalty, but I managed it and figured it out. So.
Was that tough?
Yeah. But here we are in the parking lot and taking a swim. I did say the 110-1, but it's August. The sun is on the lake, right? And that top layer is probably, maybe it's 50 degrees instead of 40. Yeah. Oh, this is a big part of it, right? The strategy and the skill and the deciding where to go. You can see his tracks here, what he's done, and now thinking, okay, it's always so tempting to go over to the North Shore. Everybody wants to go to the North Shore. It's like, oh, the North Shore, I'm going to get over there and there's going to be this amazing lift and I'm just going to fly into Duluth. It never happens, don't do it. It's a myth, it's a unicorn. So, but that's what he's contemplating. He's going, I really want to go to the North Shore, I really want to go. He's monitoring channel 16, good boy, it's really good. Yeah, and trying to figure out what's next. I do like this part of sailing. Who likes this part of sailing? The tactics part? Yeah. This is probably just an iconic view. Sun setting in the west. You're heading to Duluth. You're heading to the west. Looks like it's going to be a red sky at night. Sailor's delight. Yeah. Red sky in the morning. Sailor's day morning. So here we go. A great night ahead. I do love sailing at night. I just love it. I love that feeling, you're only maybe going 5 or 10 knots, depending on the boat you're on, but it's just magic. It feels like you're just flying. It feels like you're going 3 times that speed. Just the sound, or maybe nestled in, like if you have a really good crew and everybody's like rock solid, and you're down in one of the berths, V berth, quarter berths, and the water's just lapping, and you're just hearing the quiet conversation, and maybe the winches clinking a little bit. Oh, that's good. That's good. How's this trim? Is this trim good? Seeing trim? Look at the telltales. Yeah, rock solid. There's some thought that folks there's somebody on the committee, he writes the NORs and the SIs, and he really wants the capability for folks in all classes to use the auto helm. And I don't know on that. I can see the value in it, but I'm more of a purist. I think somebody should be on the helm. I think it's part of an endurance, right? Yeah. That you're on the helm, you're steering it actively. Although I would have loved to have auto helm one night. I was on the J35. I wasn't that experienced. I was mainly the foredeck guy, but everybody was tired, and they let me get on the helm. Big mistake at that time. And there were lights like right there, and then all of a sudden they were behind me. And I thought, how did that happen? And what I had done is somehow turned the boat in a complete 180. I was going back to Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah. Have you ever stared at a numbers compass like over and over and stared and kind of in the fog and then all of a sudden just like get total vertigo? Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. So, yeah, it wasn't long before the captain was up like, okay, give me that thing. Back to the front. Here we are approaching Duluth under Spinnaker, right? Wind coming from 140 or 153. Yeah. And it looks like there's some ripples on the water. It looks like the sail's nice and full. That's glorious. Duluth is weird. You come into Duluth. Who's sailed into Duluth like this? Yeah. You keep looking for the bridge. You think the bridge is right here, but it's really over here. Even many times I've come into Duluth, I still just love this view thing. Maybe favorite port to come into by water is Bayfield. Who's come into Bayfield by water? Isn't that just beautiful? Or Copper Harbor. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We're so lucky. So here we are, bridge in sight. The finish line is coming up. This can be kind of crazy because the wind, this is a funky corner of the lake. It's either really windy or it's not windy at all, or there's wind over here, but there's not over there. And you can sit here and be parked forever and watch somebody come in from the outside, or from the other side, the inside, and go around you. There's no guarantees that they're going to get to the finish from this point, but it's close. You can smell it. We did on that trimaran, we did a race, we did the Chicago Mac. Who's done the Chicago Mac? Yeah, and we were on the trimaran. We were like, I don't know, in the top 10 boats coming underneath the Mackinac Bridge, and then the wind shut off and the sun went down, and we were stuck there just sitting, and we would smell horse poop and fudge, and then we would smell pine trees when it came from the Michigan side, and then it was horse poop and fudge, and then it was that. And then about the middle of the night, we saw all these red lights going like this, and the whole fleet went around us and finished as we were sitting in this crazy hole. Yeah, nothing we could do, right? We went from like the top 15 to somewhere in the, I don't know, 100th or something like that. Still fun. So here's the finish at Duluth. We have this huge buoy, and then it's the North Pier is the finish line. Here's El Monstro. This is Tom Rauschenfeld. He always gets in the way of this photo. I think I only have one or two first to finish photos where he's not in there. It sneaks in. That's okay. I like Tom. And that is Talisman coming in, first to finish in 2023. And that's kind of a big deal. We took the news reporter out for this, and they were able to film it. It was a lot of fun. Okay, how long does it take to do it? The course record is 28 hours, 30 minutes on Earth Voyager. Earth Voyager is this huge trimaran, probably about as big as this building. A friend of mine, John Honig, was on the boat, and he's got this chart in his office, and it's got all the different points where they were at, how fast they were going. But pretty much really good on staying on the rum line, yeah? The fastest way there, but look at that. He got tempted to go to the North Shore. Everybody does. It's like, this is the YB tracking, and it's just a screenshot from it. These are the boats from the really rich owners, yeah, the 50-plus foot. Yeah, they kind of were packed this year way out in front, and they're going to finish in the afternoon on Monday, and then everybody else kind of hanging out off the Keweenaw doing different things. of theirs. The wind was a little bit light at this point in time. So here's the finish from last year, and they started on August 5th. And this was a little slower trans than some we've had for the group. But what I thought was really cool here was the number of boats that piled in between 9 and 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 8th. Yeah? We just had a whole boatload come in at that time. And it's just, I don't know, it was magic because everybody came in, we got everybody docked in the Minnesota Slip, you know, where the Irvin is there. And then it just became this little party of just stories and celebrations and pizzas being delivered and beers being brought out and just talking about the race. You couldn't have planned it, I mean, but it was just magic that night. Boats, we can talk boats a little bit. This is Bill Martin's Santa Cruz 70. He's been a huge supporter of the race. I don't know how many times he's done it, almost as many times as Keith Stauber is. Do you know that name? Keith Stauber, Papa Gaucho? Yeah, they've done it about the same number of times. And in 2021, first to finish, and he's won first to finish and overall several times. Other end of the spectrum, this is Tweety. I'll tell you a story about him a little later on. This is not during the trans, this is just racing in the bay up in Lake Superior. But he's done it as double-handed, he's done it as a crewed boat with 3 or 4 people on board, and then he's done it single-handed, and he was first single-handed in the Wilson 30 class. Hey, if you like Wilson 30s, we've got 9 of them in Duluth now. Eric Thomas owns 3, so if you want to buy a Wilson 30 and race it in Duluth, yeah, you could call Eric up at Barker's Island. Fun little boat. Bigger boats again, Talisman, a BC-58. I think this is one of my favorite boats. I just love the angles and just everything about this boat. Love the color. Yeah. First to finish 2019. Arate Trimaran. It wasn't the year for a Trimaran. The winds were really light that year, so he didn't do that well. But he was first in his division because he was the only boat in his division. Here's a Tartan 10. What are they? 30 feet long. Yeah, single-handed. They were first. This Avatar was first place, 2019. The other 2 big races are not really friendly to single-handeds. Trans-Superior loves single-handed sailors. If you have a desire at some point in time to be a single-handed sailor and do the Trans-Superior, we'll do everything to help you achieve that dream. Yeah, we really respect single-handed sailors. We think that they're braver than most, yeah, or crazier than most. And we really support them and celebrate them. Think about that. 300 plus miles single-handed. Oh, here we go. This is not single-handed. This is Artus, just a beautiful boat. I think there's 16 on here. I could have confirmed it. It might be 16, 17. It works out to 4 per spreader. Another way to look at it is $100,000 per spreader. Something like that. Yeah, on that program. Just a glorious, beautiful boat.
That's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I think 2 life rafts at least, maybe 3. Other end of the spectrum, this is Ron Smallbone. He's raced it twice. And this is Epiphany, a 27-foot barrage. He's from Canada. He was second place single-handed B in 2019. And then when he's in the race, he gets our sweeper award. What's that? Do you know about cross-country racing, anybody here? I'm a high school ski coach, and we always send somebody out to sweep the course, right, to make sure everybody's come in. They'll be the last person in. Yeah. And so we really celebrate that. You'll see we give a sweeper award to the last boat in. We are on the finish line. We are supporting the boats from first to last. I think that's something that really sets the Trans-Superior apart from the other races, is that we really care about every single sailor. not just the big bucks guys, right?
They call it, in cycling, they call it the red light.
Oh.
Because on the back of the train, there's red light.
Yeah.
It's actually an honor, because you've finished the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how we approach it. And especially, it's usually a single-handed sailor, right?
Yeah.
That's gutsy.
Yeah.
That's gutsy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the perfect trans-superior boat is the J35. I mean, it's accessible to a lot of people, right? You know, something like that, around that 35-foot range. It's really seaworthy. These things can take anything, right? You can reduce sail easily, chain sails, and they're fast. Yeah, they go upwind really well. So if you're looking for the perfect trans-superior boat, something like the J35 is right in there, I think. What's a crew look like? This is the crew at Yacht. Yeah, so it looks like this room, right? Yeah, you can do it. They can do it. All right, kind of a family. This is the crew from Amante. This crew, man, of all the crews we've ever had in the Trans-Superior that I've ever seen at any race, this group really has it down. They all dress the same. They just have this great attitude. They're a team. They're just a team, and they like each other, and they just talk to each other. There's some boats when they come in, you know that something unhealthy went on because they just get off the boat and they're gone, right? Yeah, these guys are just like tight and talking and they're walking around and stay for the awards. Yeah, really a good group. We gave them, we kind of made this up on the fly. I had this nice little thing made up a couple years ago, and we gave them the Crew of the Year award. So we'll keep that going. Yeah, they're awesome. This is Polar Bear and Eric Thomas, maybe you know him, his brother Alan. Polar Bear, Eric's done a lot of racing. He's done the Transpac as solo, did the Transpac on his other boat, and he's done the Trans-Superior tons of times.
Pack Cup, not Trans.
What's that?
Pack Cup, not Transpac.
Yeah,
Pack Cup.
Pack Up, thank you. Thank you, yeah. A big race from California to Hawaii. And then here on Polar Bear, he this year he had a phenomenal race, just these four. Ended up winning the race, ended up having the fastest time. I think even in the ORC division, with corrected time, he would have finished like second or third. So just a little Olsen 30. So amazing. What some good sailors and good decisions can do. Witness protection, I love this crew. They do it every year. They're super competitive. We're doing it in the cruising class, but I think they moved to PERF A or B this year. And this is another tight crew that really works well together. Yeah. And double-handed, I believe this, I forgot what boat this is, but I believe this was a husband and wife double-handed team. And we have a double-handed division as well. And that's a sweet way to kind of make the transition to, do I want to do it single-handed, to do it double-handed and see how that goes.
Did she throw him off? Or?
Yeah. No, somebody had to take the picture. There's 2 water bottles.
Can you switch classes in between?
Awards. This is one of my favorite parts. I like kind of paying attention who's won awards, what the award means, getting the history down, getting it up on the website. We have a first to finish trophy, and it's stored at some bar in Bayfield. And we keep track of, who's first to finish. We give them a bottle of champagne, or 2 in this case, and get a picture of the trophy. This was Talisman. Everybody gets a flag, in the top 3. And new, this is the sweeper award. And then new this year, we did the virtual Trans-Superior. We got an email from a virtual sailing outfit, and we ended up having over 100 people, myself included, who did the race virtually. And it was super fun, except they gave us really doggy boats. Oh my gosh, they were so slow. And so next, in 2025, they promised us faster boats and so we can be more competitive and actually be with the fleet, because they have the fleet inlaid with the virtual. So you can kind of race head to head, so to speak. Yeah. And you get a little ding on your phone when you've gone head to wind, or a little ding on your phone when you've gone aground.
That's not the phone.
Yeah. It is when you're virtual. Half the time it was like this, trying to make decisions about what to do. It's like, get your head in the game, you're not doing it.
Do you get to keep going?
Super fun. At one point in time, the Trans-Superior had 4 of these trophies for Class A, B, C, and D. And then it had one that really went from the floor to here. I've seen pictures of it, and I've been looking for it. If it's in this clubhouse, let me know. I've looked everywhere else. But I found them in garages, I found them in backs of trailers, and they were a mess. And finally I made 2 trophies out of the 4 that I found, and then we've tried to put by year who all the different folks are that have won, and to celebrate that. This is the Bagley Trophy. There was a jewelry store in Duluth called Bagley Jewelers, and I think it's obviously named after them. This trophy for, oh gosh, the last 20 years was locked up by Keith Stauber. He was always the one from Duluth doing the best in the Trans-Superior, and Polar Bear snatched that from him this year. So that was really exciting to see that change. Just a beautiful trophy. And this goes obviously to the Duluth person. There's another trophy called the Barthel Tri-Lakes Challenge Trophy. And in the past, it was the clubs from the Lake Huron, the club from the what's that lake called? Michigan, and then Superior. And they would get together and race on, I think, 10-meter boats or something like that, and race against each other, and then they could get the Barthel Trophy. And I don't know what happened, but that just kind of stopped and ended up not happening. And then somebody had the great idea of combining the 3 races, and if you did all 3, then you'd be in contention for the Barthel Trophy. And this is the trophy. It weighs about 100 pounds. The base is solid marble. It's silver. We had a silversmith at Security Jewelers redo the whole thing. It's just beautiful. It's stored at the Gitchigami Club in Duluth. Yeah, it's in the library there. And this is awarded to the boat with the best finish from the 3 races. And this year, here's the spreadsheet. Probably the boat to look at is Fast Tango. They had a really good Chicago Mac. See, they're running these other big boats. This is only, Fast Tango's like a 35-footer. These are 70 and 50-footers. Their Bayview Mac was awesome. They won that. They were 46 hours compared to 19 compared to 46:35. So they were in first place coming into the Trans-Superior. And then their Trans-Superior was not so hot. They were a little, wait, where were we at? Yeah, Fast Tango. They were the slowest on Trans-Superior for corrected time. And so they ended up overall in 5th. But Talisman did well. 173 hours, 22 minutes, and 27 seconds corrected time. So just a little bit over Amante, too. So how far did they race? 905 miles. Run line, but they did a lot more than that because they had the tack and jive. And the same as if they raced from Duluth to somewhere in Texas. Yeah. So a lot of racing and a lot of hours, right? So elapsed time overall. 181 hours on Fast Tango. It's a long time to sail, right? Yeah. So you win this trophy, you've done something. You've done something a lot that's worth celebrating. I got 3 stories that I'll tell you. This one takes a little, I have to set it up a little bit. I told you about Ron. We're at sailing by himself and on this little boat. And here's his track from YB Tracking. And you You can see he also got attracted to the North Shore. About right here, he should have been saying, tack. Yeah, time to go this way. Right? This red line, you don't want to get far from it. You got more distance when you go up there. But he didn't. But do you see this squiggle right here? Okay. So I'm going to zoom in on this squiggle. Okay, so there's nothing I hate worse when I'm sailing than to go backwards. Anybody else have that problem? Right? Like when the mark is that way and you're going that way, it just really bothers me. And so, but he's tired. But the other thing that's going on is there's no wind. Okay, the wind has shut off. All right, and he's just drifting. And there's a current off the Keweenaw Peninsula that supposedly carries as much water as the Mississippi River does. Yeah, and the Keweenaw Current. And so some of that might be going on. Although I think the Keweenaw Current is down lower. It's not a surface current, but still. And so back home in Duluth, there's a woman who's watching on the computer, and she's kind of fallen in love with this Ron Smallbone, and she doesn't know him, but just she's kind of a fan of the underdog, right? And so she's watching him, and she sees this going on, and she sees what she thinks is the beginning of an S. And then maybe the next letter is going to be an O, and then maybe the next letter is going to be an S. So she calls the U.S. Coast Guard and says, I believe that poor Epiphany is in trouble, and he's writing out SOS with his boat. And so the Coast Guard calls us and says, we got this lady on the line. And so I called her up, and I kind of explained what happened. And she was cool. She actually came down, and when Ron came to the finish line, she was there to greet him. But it didn't go very well after that, because so she was kind of a little bit on the creeper end of things, and Ron is a solo sailor for a reason. Yeah. He wasn't that interested in her. So I had to kind of give her a job. That was interesting. So this is my trailer. It's a 58 Pathfinder or something like that. And I was walking away from it one time, and somebody didn't know me, and I heard this guy say, "Who owns that piece of shit trailer?"
Oh, that's a nice trailer.
What's it good? I love this trailer. The inside, it's all, birch family. But this is the year after COVID, and I sat in this trailer to monitor the docking. And when anybody would come to me, I would say, wait, before I answer your question, I want you to tell me, I want you to answer this question. I want you to tell me a story. What is something that happened on the lake that was profound, that really made you think, really made a difference? And so in the trailer door comes this really big guy. He's got muscles out to here, and he's just super manly man. He's a super manly man. And I asked him that question. I said, what about this? Now, remember, this is right after COVID, right? So take yourself back there a little bit. And he stands in the doorway. I said, what's the thing that just really made a difference? What made this Trans-Superior special? What story can you tell me? And I began to see tears in his eyes. I began to see him kind of, shuddering. I see him kind of turns, he kind of walks away, he kind of collects himself, and he comes back and he says, for a year, I've been alone. I used to do so much with my brother. My brother and I used to go deer hunting. We used to do this, we used to do that, we used to do this. And this whole year, I haven't been able to be there and be with him. And he said, I had the opportunity to sit on the rail with my brother for 3 straight days and just be and just talk and just get to know him again. Yeah, that was worth it. That was worth all the hours on the computer. That was worth all the planning. That was worth everything we did to set up that opportunity. This one is Treaty, and this is Bob Shore. Yeah, and I'll read this one. My interest in solo racing are largely accidental. when I was a kid, I would secretly take out my dad's boat, a San Juan 24, out by myself from time to time. He eventually found out because I started racing it without his permission in a Thursday night series. He's a philosophy professor. He's pretty cool. Hosted by Barker's Island. The results for this series were published in a local newspaper, and somebody saw that his boat was doing well and congratulated him. The gig was up, and my early career as a solo sailor ended. Later, when I bought Tweety and Olsen 30, I did some single-handed racing in the Duluth Yacht Club weekend series when I didn't have anyone to crew with me. I did the Trans Superior in 2017 double-handed with my friend Nick. That was a lot of fun, so I formed the intention to try it single-handed in 2019. Fortunately for me, there's lots of great resources for an aspiring single-handed. An unexpected benefit of racing solo. I discovered it's a lot easier to convince my partner, Jean, to buy things for the boat. All I have to say is, I need, insert expensive item here, for the Trans Superior. It's a safety issue. I'll be out there all by myself. Some quick stories about doing the 2019 Trans Superior single-handed. During some rough weather, a small bird flew inside the cabin of the boat. This happens a lot, actually, on Lake Superior. A lot. Yeah, birds, bats, yeah, a lot. And it stayed in there until the weather cleared. I think he read the name on the side of the hull and figured it was a safe place to hang out. At one point, I thought all my instruments were off by 90 degrees until I realized that the light I saw building on the horizon was not the sun rising in the east, but it was instead the northern lights. Finally, there was a brief period of high wind, rain, and poor visibility where the boat basically laid over on her side and a bunch of water dumped in the cockpit. Now he's by himself, remember. Low freeboard on an Olsen 30 happens more often than you think. A week earlier on the delivery to the Sioux, my buddy Greg and I went through a nasty windstorm where we ended up doing a steady 8 to 10 knots for several minutes with just the rig, no motor and no sails up. So, during the Trans Superior storm, I was happy to be slogged down in the water and not blindly surfing backwards through the fleet at God only knows how fast a clip. Being heeled all the way over also shook loose some food that I had cached deep within a winch handle pocket. So I had something to eat while I was waiting for the wind to ease and for the cockpit to drain. It's funny what you can end up being grateful for. So this is probably my favorite story of all. This is Ashley. She is applying on the Trans Superior website, or actually on the Yacht Scoring website. If you want to participate in the Trans Superior, you can put your name in as what you want to do, and she wants to be all positions. She's a novice. Hello, I'm Ashley, 25, resident of Georgia, and I think probably the important thing, she sailed from Bayfield to Racine with her dad, life-changing experience. We made a promise that each of us would make that trip again someday. My dad passed suddenly in January. I'm seeking the opportunity to honor my dad's spirit by offering to crew in the Trans Superior, something my dad always wished he could participate in. I have no experience racing, but I work well with others. I'm quick to learn and offer my help in any way. I understand this is a long shot, but I know my dad would encourage me to try. Please reach out if interested. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So I saw this, and gosh, as a 6th grade teacher, my heart just melted, right? And as a dad, my heart melted. And so I sent this out on part of the newsletter to all the captains and said, hey, somebody has to make sure Ashley gets a ride. And sure enough, she got picked up on a great boat. There was 3 guys, older guys, great experience. I think they did cruising class. So Ashley had a great ride across the lake and got a chance to complete that journey that she had promised her dad, and her dad had so much wanted to do. Yeah. I maintain the Trans Superior website. I think it's pretty good. I think it's worth going there if you're interested in more information. Like, there's history there. You could watch all the yellow brick races. You can click on them and you could like back it up. There's like a little replay feature. You can kind of see what the boats do, how they do. There's also on there's a knowledge base. We've got 2 great videos from some pretty high-level sailors that will kind of talk through how to get ready, for the race, and then one from the National Weather Service, what to expect for weather, something like that. Yeah, that's a good spot. And then really, well, there's John with that buoy, yeah, the big buoy. It's hard to haul out there. But what questions or comments or do you have? Yeah.
Is this always in August?
It's always the first weekend in August, and it's every other year. Yeah, it's biennial. Yeah, so I think we're coming up on the 29th biennial, so the 29th running of it. But it's been going for almost 60 years, right? Yeah.
And you would never consider going the other direction again, right? You'd never would.
I don't think so, yeah. It doesn't make any sense because there's really no finish line, there's no place to finish, you know, because you can't really race up the St. Mary's River because it gets narrow with the shipping
So,
channel.
in the ocean, you know, storms can come out of nowhere at just about in a second or two. Is that true on Lake Superior too?
Oh, yeah, you always keep your eyes to the west, right? Yeah, yeah, they always, yeah, they come over the hill. Yeah, yeah, for sure, yeah.
How about a double trans?
A double trans, like, yeah.
Start in Duluth, go down around the Whitefish and come back.
That would be-
Super trans.
Yeah, that'd be
Super
super cool.
trans.
Yeah, and you're talking like there's the what's that called? The Super Mac, where you
Yeah.
go from
This
Chicago
year's the
Mac
Super
and then
Mac.
down to
Bayfield.
Bayfield. Is it Bayfield? Not Bayfield.
Bayview.
Port Huron. Port Huron, Bayview. Yeah, and then turn around and then go back, right? And there's that one. I think Treaty did that last year. The single-handed sailors did that. They did, yeah, Chicago all the way around and then back to Chicago.
Super Mac and back.
Super Mac and back. Yeah, it's crazy.
Have there been like major storm systems that have come through that have kind of diverted people or had to not be able to finish or?
We've had some dropouts for weather. Usually the dropouts, like there's a dropout last year that never should have happened. There was somebody that had a meeting that they had to get back to for work. Like, do not put somebody on your crew that can't cancel a meeting. Like crazy, like all that work, all that effort to say, well, we're not gonna finish in time, it's going a little slow, you gotta go to shore. Like, no. We've had folks drop out for medical reasons, but then drop the guy off and then go back to the point where they dropped out, where they dropped and continue racing. That was cool. But we haven't had any big weather disruptions during the trans. August is the right time to do it. You know, you have those pictures in your head of the huge waves crashing against the shore, and yeah, that happens. It's usually not in that time frame in August. Yeah.
What's the shortest LOA that's completed the trans?
The shortest?
Length, like any 24s, any 20s?
The shortest boat. I think the 27 is about the shortest that I know of. Yeah.
Wells did on a J24 once.
J24. Yeah, I don't like those. They're not
Back in the day.
self-riding, right?
That's a prehistoric
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. 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 There's some pretty. We've got a really long list of safety requirements, and one of those is that if you get put on your side, you got to be able to come back up, right? And this J24 is not really good at that.
What's the minimum length now?
I think it might be 24, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
there is.
That was like 20 feet or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the early, like prehistoric days of the Trans-Superior, there was a race that basically the only boat one of the few boats that finished was Doc Pierpont's boat. He had ducked into the Apostle Islands to ride out a storm, was on anchor for several days, finally finished the race, was shocked to find out that he thought he lost, but he was like the first to finish and won the race.
Yeah.
So that was like back in the early 70s, late 60s, or early few Trans-Superior races.
I'd love to get an email from you to get hooked up with you because there's some gaps in my records for who's finished when and where, and I'd love to get an email from you about, hey, let's talk more.
Probably, obviously Keith Stauber doesn't know, there's no who does know.
Yeah, Keith, I've definitely cornered Keith. And
It'd be like
gone through
people
it.
from the Apostle Islands Yacht Club from
Yeah.
deal that like started the Trans Superior race.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you manage the race vis-a-vis the commercial traffic on the lake?
Oh, I think that's why AIS is gonna be really important, you know, so they can see you, even though they, you know, you're just a really small little blip on their radar, but you're a big blip with AIS. I think that's super, super important. And the other thing is just you understanding that they're big and much bigger than you, and you need to really pay attention. And
But
stay out
actually,
there.
if you don't know who Bill Brenham is, Bill Brenham
No.
is from Wayzata Yacht Club here. He's like a direct connection to the Pierpont family. He's
Oh,
related.
so Barb, maybe you can get me hooked up? That'd be really good. Yeah, yeah.
So I noticed on your listing of the boats and the results, it was 21 boats. I think in 2023, it was like 7, 7, and 7 in the 3 different classes. Was that just by happenstance? I mean, does it ebb and flow the number of boats per year and how many are in the different groupings?
Yeah, I think that was just a snapshot of part of the,
Oh,
so
okay,
there was
got
more
it.
there. Yeah.
Okay, what's
And
the
then-
maximum?
And then when we set up the classes, we try to make if we can, we try to make the classes about the same size.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah, so like, all the perf boats will register, and then we look at their rating and think, okay, this is A, this is B, this is C. That's
Got it.
typically how we do it.
Do you have a maximum of how many boats, like, or is it just like as many as want to participate?
Oh, we would take as many as want to sail, but I think, everybody says, oh, try to make it a really big race, try to make it a really big race. And I think what sets our race apart is we're friendly. The guys, all the crew will always say, oh my gosh, I went to the gas station in Duluth, and the people there even were so friendly. And Duluth has that, right? You know, other races, maybe it's, you know, you're not cool enough, your boat's not big enough, or, you know, kind of that, you know, snobby little bit. And Duluth is just chill, and we kind of got this reputation that, yeah, we're gonna take care of you, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And you're gonna be celebrated. And I think that's kind of our niche. I don't think we're ever gonna be a 300 boat race. It's just not gonna happen. But I think if we could be a really good 30 to 40 boat race, yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah. Well, thank you. What a pleasure to be here.
I didn't think that the 1:10 one was 1 minute, you know, the gasping 10, you know, but I thought the one was then you die in 1 minute.
No, no.
You have an hour?
You got an hour.
Okay, good to know.
I mean, if you're properly dressed, maybe you have a life jacket on, you know. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I think you provided a nice mix of photos and stories and facts, so how many people might consider it?
Or no, 87.
Oh, great, great. And at Dallas, didn't you do a single-handed? Weren't you single-handed?
I've done 8 trances.
8.
And you did it single-handed. Did you have you done it single-handed?
I shared a cab with Ron and the girl that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a true story to be told.
Yeah, that's a true story. Well, I know we have to get off and about, but you gave us a wonderful gift for our yacht club. We have ours for you
Awesome.
as well, so
Hey.
take that back. Now, we're up to 60 years, but we did a little book here, so you can, you know, we'll quiz you on that later.
Yes.
And then, you know, you might need extra flotation devices.
Yes.